The Burrage Sports Show.
Yo ho, what's up everybody? It's the Burrage Sports Show. We are back. We're excited, man. I'm one of your hosts, Mike B, and I'm here with my son,
Mike BURR.
Mike BURR. We got to talk NFL, man. We're through the first 4 games for most teams, so we're a quarter of the way through the season, and it's been exciting so far. It's been some real good football. Even though the fans aren't there, the NFL, they're kind of in the bubble in a sense, but it's been great. So let's just go through the NFL early on in the podcast because, you know, the season is rocking and rolling. I want to start right at the top. Kansas City Chiefs, still the number 1 team in the NFL. And let's walk the power rankings, by the way. Let's go to the NFL.com power rankings, and let's just talk about some teams, Mike B. You good with that?
Yep.
All right, Mike BURR, let's do it. So Chiefs still won. They haven't lost a game. They did it with defense against the Patriots, got 4 turnovers. What you think about the Chiefs at the top?
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see them play if Cam was playing.
Yeah.
But, you know, they went out, handled business, and I think they're still the best team on offense by far. And they do have, I've been saying this, they have an underrated defense. They also have one of the best defenses. And they're just good on both sides of the ball, so it's no question they're the team to beat still.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard, which most people have by now, Cam was out due to COVID. So it was kind of an unfair game. They had to push the time back and everything, but KC took care of business and won that game. Number 2 on the NFL rankings, Green Bay Packers. Big win over the Falcons in week 4. They're 4-0. Aaron Rodgers has been resurrected. He's been doing it without his top receiver, Devontae Adams. They got a real good tight end, Robert Tonyan. He's been putting in work. So what do you think about the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, they're dominating, specifically Aaron Rodgers. And this is one of the best defenses he's had in his career as well. They're playing good on that side of the ball. And that's really all you need with Aaron Rodgers. He's going to find a way to make those throws under pressure. And I think he heard the chatter. He saw Green Bay draft a quarterback in the first round, and he's on a tour to show that he's still one of the best QBs in the league.
Okay. 3 is Baltimore. They got a big win. Let's go to 4, though. Buffalo Bills, 4-0. Josh Allen is flat balling out. The young quarterback has 12 touchdowns, only 2 picks, a 122 quarterback rating. And their acquisition of Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver from Minnesota, it has really worked out. He's lead the NFL, at least tied for the lead in the NFL in yards. A great acquisition. And the Buffalo Bills look for real. They don't look like it's just, you know, they starting off hot. They look like a serious contender in the AFC.
Yeah, the real power in this team is their defense. They have... You could argue they got the best defense in the league, and there's some other teams in that conversation. And then on offense, Josh Allen has taken that next step. He looks like a legitimate franchise QB, and he has his main guy, Stephon Diggs. And they're getting it done on both sides of the ball, and they have great special teams, too, that makes plays. So they're a team that right now with the Patriots without Cam Newton, and who knows how long that'll be before he's cleared to play again. They have a real shot to win this division. They're still undefeated. Yeah,
they're running the tables. At 5, Pittsburgh Steelers. They were going to have a real good game in week 4. It was going to be the Steelers and the Titans. That's a really good matchup, but the Titans are dealing with some serious COVID issues. They might get in trouble with the league because they might not have stuck with protocol, so their game was pushed back. But Steelers are at 5. Seattle is 6. We just talked about the Titans. They're 7. At 8, let's talk about the team number 8 on the NFL Power Rankings, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Terrific had a flashback, 5 TD passes in week 4. The Bucs are 3-1.
Yeah, and it's starting to click. You know, a lot of people counted them out, but they lost to the Saints week 1. They lost to a good football team. And Tom Brady's starting to get more comfortable with the offense, comfortable with the new play callers, and starting to use all the weapons he has. And the Tampa Bay defense is good too. And they're coming to Chicago this week, so it's gonna be interesting. We don't have a good record against Tom Brady.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. At number 9, the Rams, they're 3-1. 10, New England Patriots. And like I say, they might be in a little trouble because with Cam out, I don't know what their backup quarterback situation is going to be. They had already lost some players. Yeah. So they're kind of in a tough spot right now. Still have a real good defense, but I don't know what they're going to do on offense. They're just kind of searching right now to try to stabilize. Saints are ranked at number 11 at 2-2. And then the team we played, number 12, the Indianapolis Colts, top-ranked defense in the NFL. They stuffed us and held us to 269 total yards. We couldn't run the football at all. The Colts are ranked number 12. They're 3-1. I think the Colts are legitimate. I really do.
Yeah, they are a legit team, and they came into that game with the number 1 defense, and they play like the number 1 defense. They're all over the field. They got a ton of playmakers. A lot of guys having a resurgence in their career on that team.
Phillip Rivers, the quarterback.
Yep, and they got a lot of young players too that are very talented. And that defense, they just swarm you. They're all over the field. They make plays, and they make big plays too. They create turnovers. And then on offense, you got a veteran QB, and they have an amazing offensive line.
They do.
I mean, he could sit in the pocket for hours, even against Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks. They could barely touch him. So that says a lot about their O-line. And their offense really hasn't clicked, so I don't know if they could beat the top teams, but I do think they'll probably make the playoffs, and they'll be tough to beat because that defense wins championships.
I agree. And right up under them at 3-1, a surprise because, and I say it's a surprise even though they acquired a lot of talent in the last few years, the Cleveland Browns. An impressive 3-1. You know, they've been playing pretty good ball. Odell Beckham had a big game. Odell Beckham Jr. had a big game. Baker Mayfield is actually playing with a little more discipline. They can really run the football. I mean, Cleveland might actually, end the season a playoff contender or a playoff team.
Yeah, it might be starting to click here. Now, they were in trouble in that Cowboys game, and the Cowboys somehow allowed them to score 24 straight points in the fourth quarter. So I don't want to get too high on this team yet, but they are 3-1. They are playing well. And Baker, if he doesn't turn the ball over, they have a good defense. They have a good running game. They can win a lot of games just if he minimizes the turnovers that we saw from him last season. And when you got guys like Odell Beckham, he's a playmaker. It's a reason why he's a superstar. And they're going to be a tough team to beat as well.
Yeah. I like them because they're young. They got some young talent. And youth can pay off down the stretch when guys get a little tired, maybe a little more worn out, especially if they're not banged up. If Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham can get a rhythm, they can cause a lot of trouble. Because we know when Odell Beckham is healthy and at his best, he's as good as any receiver in the league. So I like the Cleveland Browns, but you got to be a little cautious because they are the Cleveland Browns and they are in a tough division.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a dog fight, for lack of a better term, for the dog pound. But it's good to see Cleveland getting off to a real good start. Yeah. After the Cleveland Browns at 14, San Francisco 49ers, they're 2-2. Carolina Panthers are 15 at 2-2. The Arizona Cardinals, I want to talk about them because they're 2-2, so they're starting to turn things around. Kyler Murray, we know, is, their franchise quarterback, a high draft pick. That's the guy they're banking their hopes on. But they have DeAndre Hopkins. So I know the super producer April has some updates on DeAndre Hopkins, but as you know, Hopkins played for the Houston Texans, and he was their best player by far, and they cut him. And the Houston Texans has just
they traded him.
They traded him. Yeah, I'm sorry. They traded him
for first round picks, and then they end up trading most of that to get another receiver.
Yeah.
But they traded Hopkins for David Johnson.
Right. And it was like forgive me for saying he was cut, but the trade was kind of like not a trade to do what's best for the team. It was like cutting him. They didn't want him.
Yeah, and it was rumors that he wasn't getting along with the coach for obvious reasons, and now the coach ends up getting fired. And it reminds me a lot of the AD situation with the Pelicans.
Yeah,
Right,
April, let's chime in. Super producer April, what you got on that Hopkins situation?
Well, the general manager as well as the coach for the Houston Texans was fired over the weekend since they're 0-4 and decided to trade Hopkins.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It reminds me a lot of the AD situation with the Pelicans, right? Where he didn't want to make the trade, even though he got a ton of value back, and then you end up losing a player. But in this situation, they traded the best player, didn't really get the same amount of value. It's hard to match value with a guy like Hopkins. And then the value you got from the trade, they end up trading that to get somebody else who's not as good as Hopkins. So it was it was just bad. And they're 0-4.
Yeah, and it's weird because the Texans, they've won their division 4 out of the last 6 years. I mean, This is not a scrubby football team that just made a really terrible decision. It's like they just got into their feelings and they got out of the, it's business, not personal, and went personal as opposed to business, and it is having some tragic domino effect. And it's ironic, you re-sign your quarterback to a big deal, but you take away his biggest weapon. And so that hasn't worked out well at all. So the Cardinals are 2-2. They're ranked 16. And like I say, as fate will have it, DeAndre Hopkins has the most receiving yards in the NFL right now.
Yeah, he's balling. And this Cardinals team, they're talented. They got a relatively new coach. They got to fix some holes on their defense. But on offense, you got DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray is a dog. So they're a couple pieces away. Maybe not this season, but within a couple years, they're going to be with the top teams.
I think so. At 17, the Minnesota Vikings, real good team the last few years. They are off to a horrid start. They're 1-3. And their one win came over the worst team probably in the NFL right now, the Texans. So I don't know if they could even really count that. What's going on with the Minnesota Vikings?
Kirk Cousins. I mean, when you look at the roster, they got a strong defense. They got still got Thielen. They traded Diggs, but they really should have traded Kirk Cousins. They should have. You got rid of a player that was balling out instead of dealing with the real problem. And you see how well the Bills are playing versus the Vikings. And I think that, and Stephon Diggs is definitely a big part of that. Because they got a strong running game, good offensive line, and just great defense. But at the most important position, just like the Bears, they're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I don't know why Minnesota went all in on Kirk Cousins. And I'm not trying to be too harsh on Kirk Cousins, but they really went after him like he was a great franchise quarterback that won a bunch of playoff games and went to a Super Bowl and things like that. I mean, they really bet the farm on him, and it's not paying off. I mean, don't get me wrong. They've had some success, had some playoff wins, but it's not. I don't think it is what they expected it to be.
Yeah, and I feel like the Vikings are they realize they made a mistake, and now they're doing the smart thing. They're tanking, right? You got a lot of good quarterbacks coming out. Trevor Lawrence is one of them. So maybe you get in that, get an early pick, and you can get a quarterback, draft him, let him play behind Kirk Cousins, or just cut him and then start with a fresh QB there.
Yeah, that might be the move because right now they're struggling, and with the Bears at 3-1, with the Vikings at 4-0, the Bears at 3-1, they're in a little trouble. I mean, they're gonna have to turn around quick if they want a chance in the division. So we're just walking through the NFL power rankings because we're a quarter of the way through, first 4 games. We're having a little fun with that. At 18 is the Chargers. And an interesting team is at 19.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
And you got, their team, another very talented team that's, they just don't seem. They're kind of like their basketball team, like a ton of talent, but it's just like something's just not right. Like they just can never put it all together at once. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, with the magical Nick Foles. But ever since then, it's just been kind of up and down. And sometimes they look like one of the best teams in the league. Then the next week they look terrible. Carson Wentz has also been inconsistent. Then they have a bunch of injuries all the time. So, it's just a lot going on in Philly. And because when you look at their roster, they should be right up there.
Yeah, they got a lot of talent on paper.
Yeah, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Carson Wentz looks good on paper, but he can't get out he's in a rut, man. One game he plays good, like you say, then the next game he's awful. Like you don't know which Carson Wentz is going to show up. So at 20, how about those Cowboys? It has been a disaster for them so far. They're 1-3. Dak Prescott has the most passing yards in the NFL, but it's not equating to wins.
Yeah.
And a lot of those passing yards are, late in games, they might score 2-3 touchdowns, stat padding. But Dallas hasn't looked good at all, man.
Yeah, impressive on offense, at least stat-wise, but you're right. It's not resulting in wins. And the defense, which was a great defense last year, I don't know what happened, And it's interesting, a lot of the blame was thrown on Jason Garrett. They fired him, and now they're even worse. But they are in the most competitive division, the NFC East. You got the 1-2-1 Eagles, the 1-3 Washington football team, the 1-3 Cowboys, and the 0-4 Giants. So it's a big question mark of who's going to come out that division. It's real competitive.
And that's the thing, a lot of people thinking maybe the NFL should go with reseeding. So let's say in that division, if everyone finishes under 500, they don't get an automatic bid to the playoff for winning their division. If the NFL reseeds and they take the top 8 teams or whatever. What do you think about that? I'm not a fan of reseeding because I think it makes it a lot more fun when winning a division means something. So I like the fact that the division winner gets an automatic bid to the playoffs. But a lot of people don't agree with that anymore. They want everything reseeded and, the top teams in the NFL make the playoffs whether you win a division or not. You don't have that record, you don't go. What you think about that?
I don't like that for the NFL. Now, I think that's a much better argument for the NBA. But in the NFL, the divisions matter a lot. Right, you like playing against teams near your hometown. The trash talk, the fans. So I think it is good if you win the division, you make the playoffs, and then the second best teams get to play in the wild card. But I think now, but that does raise a question: if everybody finishes below 500, maybe they could implement a rule for a special case. Because, let's say the NFC East is looking like a strong candidate for that this year. What if you have a 6-8 team and they get to play in the playoffs, but meanwhile in a division like the NFC West, let's say they're second best team.
You mean like 8-8?
Yeah, no, they finished
16
8-8.
games, 8-8,
or even less. They might not even win 8 games.
Okay, like 6-10.
Yeah, something like that. And let's say in the NFC West, you have a really good team that has 10 wins or something. They don't even make it, or they're playing against them in a wild card. It would be kind of unfair. So maybe that is a rule. If nobody finishes 8-8, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But otherwise, I like the way it is.
Yeah. I know one year, and it was the year Brady got hurt, the Patriots were 11-5 and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Because
they didn't win their division. I think they came in second, but because of the way everything played out, they won 11 games and were sitting at home. So, yeah, the Cowboys, it's been a rough year. The Cowboys have probably the biggest fan base in all of football, but it hasn't been a thing of beauty. It's been rough for them. The Las Vegas Raiders are 2-2. They're kind of in-between type of team. So they're at 2-2, the Raiders. Then you have the Bears. We're at 22. The Bears were 6, went down 6 in the power rankings after that performance to the Colts. I mean, the Colts looked like the number one defense. And we couldn't get anything going. It was a really, really tough game to stomach if you're a Bear fan.
Yeah, it was hard to watch on the offensive end. The defense played pretty good, but to me, this game, that was a tough game for Nick Foles. His first game as a starter. You throw him out there against the number one defense. You could tell they were kind of out of sync, still trying to learn. Didn't have a preseason, but you can't make excuses, right? To only have 3 points for majority of that game, they got a late garbage time touchdown. But Nick Foles in the drive before that, he gave him a chance to win the game.
He did.
At that time it was only 13-3. So if we could have scored, it could have been 10-3, and we're right back in the game. But Anthony Miller drops the pass, it turns to an interception. But at some point, we switch quarterbacks now, and if the offense still looks the same, we can't run the ball. It looks stale, no innovation, no big plays. At some point, you got to say, hey, you had Mitch, you had Nick Foles. You got to look at the only common denominator, and that's Matt Nagy.
Okay.
And you also have to look at the O-line. I think our O-line, David Montgomery, he has to juke 2 or 3 people just to get back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they were they were swarming over him like honeybees, dude. He couldn't get anywhere. It was white jerseys every time he turned around. It was like 7 white jerseys around him.
Yeah, it's a credit to him that they only averaged 2 yards, but that's a credit to him because he every time he touched the ball, he has to juke and maneuver and truck people just to get 1 or 2 yards. So the O-line has to play stronger. And then on defense, like we have a good defense, and this could be tied to how bad our offense is. That the other offense doesn't have to take chances to beat us.
True.
But our defense, they're good, but they're not scary like they used to be. And, we got a bunch of playmakers. We got Eddie Jackson, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, but you don't see those pick sixes. Kyle Fuller is another playmaker. Where are the pick sixes? Where are the fumbles and the strip sacks? Those big highlight splash plays. I'm not seeing them right now, but I think it is mostly tied to the offense because teams right now, they know if they get a lead, they probably won't lose it.
Yeah,
so they can play really passive and just punts and play the field position game.
Yeah, I mean we're 3-1, so that's a good thing. I mean your record is what your record is, but that game I think it was an eye opener for us that maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. Because we got punched in the mouth. But hey, we got to rebound, but we're going against the GOAT. We're going against Tom Brady, but we'll be at home, and this could be, it could be a big win for us.
Yeah, this is going to be the real measuring stick for where we are, right? Because we're 3-1, but it doesn't feel like it. And playing against the Bucks, they're a legitimate team. They got the GOAT. So this is where we're going to see how good we are because we're going to have to put up way more than 3 points to beat them. True. Tom Brady is coming off throwing 5 touchdowns. So the offense is going to have to put up this week.
Yeah. And we got to keep pace with Green Bay, dude. They're 4-0 and they're humming, man. They're not they don't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. So we got to keep winning to keep pace with them because, that's who we're chasing right now.
Yep.
Rounding out the bottom of the NFL.com power rankings, Cincinnati Bengals at 23, Detroit Lions, they're 1-3 at 24. The Miami Dolphins ranked 25, 1-3. I don't know how Miami can have an excellent football team. You know what I'm saying? Like Florida is like the top talent football state for, guys 25 and under. It's more talent in Florida than anywhere in America. They got that wonderful weather. And the Dolphins they've been bad for a long time.
Yeah, and I don't understand why Tua's on the bench. What's the point of drafting a guy in the first round? And it's not like you got Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a journeyman. And no disrespect to Ryan Fitzpatrick, but what are you trying to see from him? It's not resulting in wins. You're not trying to win now anyway. I think they're looking more long term, so you might as well let your first round pick get his reps in. and get comfortable with his guys, get comfortable with the offense. Might as well throw him out there.
Yeah, I know Tua was a little banged up early, so I think they're kind of handling him with kid gloves. But sooner or later, hey, you get paid to do this. It's a man's sport. Everybody's going to be a little nicked up, a little banged up. Got to put them out there on the field. But like I say, I don't know how the state of Florida, one of the top college football and high school football havens in America, that can't translate over to the pro team.
Yeah.
Because you got a bunch of talent right in that state, which sometimes, that's not as relevant. But it's a wonderful place to live, and I'm quite sure they could recruit. It's not like a bunch of young NFL players are going to be like, no, I don't want to live in Miami. But they have just been really bad. So I don't get it. They're ranked 25. They're 1-3, and hopefully Tua, whenever his era starts, could turn it around.
Yeah.
And the other Florida team, they're 1-3. Jacksonville Jaguars, they haven't been anything worth mentioning this year. The Denver Broncos, they're 1-3. So these are all the teams at the bottom of the pile. The Atlanta Falcons have just been dreadful. They're 0-4. They're losing games. Atlanta finds the most creative ways to lose football games. I mean, if you're a Falcon fan, you have to be frustrated watching them play because they give you a little glimmer of hope and they snatch it away from you.
Yeah.
And just when you think you got it figured out, fumble, interception, turnover, they've been so weird, but they're 0-4 and they're having a rough go of it.
Yeah, and I think it's time to start rebuilding in Atlanta, because they're another one of those teams. You read the roster on paper, you're like, oh, they should be pretty good, and then on the field, it's just like you said, they find ways to lose. It seems like, and ever since they lost to the Patriots in that Super Bowl, it's been kind of the same story.
Yeah,
they never really got back to that level, and they just been kind of having a lot of. They'll have a big lead and lose it and just all types of craziness. So, it might be time to start a new era in Atlanta.
I think so. And rounding out the bottom is the Houston Texans. We talked about them. Cost Bill O'Brien his job. They lose Hopkins, and you sign your quarterback, but you take the best player away. It's just been everything they expected to happen did happen. It's been a disaster there. The Washington football team, no longer the Washington Redskins, so they did the right thing with a more respectful name. They're 1-3 though. They're not a good football team, but they're young. They got some potential there. You can see it.
Yeah.
The Giants have been dreadful. They're 0-4.
Yeah, once they lost Saquon, they weren't really good with Saquon. He's another guy that has to, make it all happen behind the line of scrimmage. But then they lost him, and it's pretty much not looking good.
Yeah, in 32-32, the New York Jets. Great fans. Jet fans are very loyal. They're crazy. You got the fireman jet guy. Big area. New York is a huge area, so you got a big fan base and all these fans, and they right now are just going backwards. They've lost a lot of games by a lot of points this season, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. They might have a totally defeated season. They might go 0-16.
I could see it. But hey, then they'll probably get Trevor Lawrence, so maybe he'll turn things around for him.
Yeah, I guess that could be the one good thing that could come out of that. Super producer April, what you got? So that's our NFL preview so far. We walked through all 32 teams. KC at the top, Jets at the bottom, Bears somewhere near kind of the bottom, even though we're 3-1. April, what you got for us?
So Trey Lance of North Dakota State University.
The quarterback?
Yep. He had the shortest college career ever. He played one game and has decided to let everyone know on Twitter that he intends to enter the 2021 NFL draft. I guess he made that decision after 25 scouts from 20 NFL clubs decided to watch him play this past weekend.
I like it.
I like it. Hey, that's business, man. That's business. He knows he's going to be a first rounder. He know he has NFL game. He's like, look, COVID's going on. I could get hurt. I'm not going to take that risk. I'd rather sit out and secure my future as an NFL player.
Yeah, I like it. I'm rooting for him, and I hope it pans out in the next level.
Yeah, and you can't call the kids selfish or anything like that because you have some restrictions in football where you can't leave as early. Like you can't be a freshman and go to the NFL, which in a way I kind of like that because it's such a brutal sport. It's a collision sport that I'm glad they don't let guys too young enter. But you got to make you got to make some other decisions because anytime you're on that field, it's a risk. So if he's making a decision for his future, to feed his family, to get his jumpstart his career, to make some money, more power to him.
And then we have Doc Rivers. He surprisingly got a 5-year deal with the 76ers.
Yeah, Doc didn't. He wasn't on the market very long. I mean, he got fired, and very shortly thereafter, bam, got a big time job with a long term deal.
But how do you think this will play out for the 76ers?
I'm surprised they did it because Doc Rivers, we know he can coach. You can't win an NBA championship as a coach unless you can coach. But he didn't get it done in LA, and he has some star players. CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. Never got past the second round. And Philly's problem was they got some talent, some names, some all-stars, with Embiid and Simmons and Horford. But they were underachieving in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you have it's kind of like the same scenario, but in the East they have a star team. They were underachieving in the playoffs, but then they go pick up a coach that had a star team that was underachieving in the playoffs. So hey, maybe it's going to be a marriage made in heaven, but it did just seem kind of ironic that they would get Doc after his team choked in the playoffs, when their problem was choking in the playoffs. But we'll see. You never know.
Yeah.
And that's all I have for you guys.
All right. Well, as of right now, it is 2-1 in the NBA Finals. Lakers up, but the Heat had an amazing game. Specifically, Jimmy Butler balled out. He had a 40-point triple-double. Game 4 is tonight. They're about to start, or they just started actually. And what are you feeling on this series right now?
Hey, gotta give Miami credit, man. They got heart. They didn't just lay down. You gotta play, man. They play like men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't just give it to the Lakers. Their back was against the wall. Bam Adebayo was out. They had injuries. Jimmy twisted his ankle early in the first game. A lot of people forgot about that, but they didn't make any excuses. They came out and balled. Like you say, Jimmy had a 40-point triple-double, as everybody knows by now. Tyler Hero, the youngest guy to ever start in the NBA final, had 17 points in the game, that Game 3 win. And they went right at LeBron. They went right at him. You got to give them credit. And Kelly Olynyk literally outplayed AD.
Yeah.
He just outplayed him. AD, I think, had 15 points. And Olynyk was not only outplayed him on the defensive end, he outplayed him on the offensive end. So, hey, I like that. Give Miami a lot of credit, just showing a lot of heart. I think they're a little bit overmatched talent-wise. I still don't think they're going to win the series, but at least they made it a series by showing heart and show what you can do when you play with confidence.
Yeah, Game 3 is that must-win game. You don't want to go down 0-3. So making it 2-1 keeps you alive in that series. But I don't know what it is. The Lakers, we saw this in every round of the playoffs. They did this against Portland, did this against Houston, did this against the Nuggets. It's like they just pick a night and everybody just decides to take it off. LeBron plays passive. AD didn't show up in Game 3. And defense, they had a lot of turnovers. I think they had like 10 turnovers in the first quarter. So you're not going to win the game playing like that. And that being said, as bad as they played, they tied it up late in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. They still had a chance to win that game. They only lost by 9. But the difference between this series and the other series is Miami is missing 2 of their 3 best players.
True.
Bam, he's supposed to be coming back soon, and Dragic. So they don't want to let this team linger, right? You dropped the game, but they got to handle business tonight, because if you let this Miami team hang around and they get Bam back, they get Dragic back, because the longer this series goes, it's going to favor Miami.
Why you say that?
because they're missing their players. If they start to get those guys back in the rotation, and their confidence is building every time they win, every time you let them get easy buckets, every time you turn the ball over, they play confident, they play scrappy. So they're not a team you just want to fall asleep on, because you don't want to get the biggest upset in NBA history. That's what people are calling it. But that being said, I do think the Lakers play really bad, and they won't play like that again.
What would this do to LeBron's legacy? If, let's say if, we just do the what if game. If the Miami Heat beat the Lakers, would that, for lack of a better term, destroy LeBron's legacy in the GOAT conversation?
I think amongst the LeBron haters, it would be a big mark on his resume, because that's the only thing they really have right now. Oh, look at his finals record. Look what he did against the Mavericks. Look what he did against the Spurs. And now if he loses with this stacked team versus this underdog team, I mean, the LeBron haters going to have a field day. And now you have another big finals not showing up. But I don't think that'll happen, but that's what people will say.
But
yeah.
I mean, it's about, when you talk about the GOAT conversation, the greatest, it's about what you produce. And yes, that's great, making it to the finals a lot, but when you lose more in the finals than you win, you can't say that they're the greatest.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's Jordan's. That's how he pretty much puts a stamp on it. He was 6-0 in the finals with 6 MVPs. In the modern era, since the merger, the NBA ABA merger, we know that Bill Russell has the most rings with like 11. But since the merger, Jordan is the man with the 6 ring. Of a superstar. We know Ori has 9, but of a superstar and a franchise guy, Jordan's 6-0 with 6 rings. And so that's why he does have that title, and because of the way he plays, obviously, on both ends of the floor. But yeah, I think it will take him out of the GOAT conversation. I think a lot of people say, you can't be a part of the biggest choke ever and be considered the GOAT. Which I don't know if that's fair to LeBron James if they lose, but I know he's like, hey, we got to win this series.
Yeah. It certainly would be a huge knock, against them, because this is a series you just got to win. And you saw Game 3, he got outplayed. Jimmy Butler outplayed him. 40 points, triple-double. LeBron had 25, but, it was a passive. Some games, I don't know what it is, because when he goes to the bucket, especially against this Miami team, they have no answer.
Right.
It doesn't matter who's on them, Jimmy, Crowder, definitely if it's Hero or Duncan Robinson. And right now, Bam is out the series. That's their only real rim protector. So, he just has to go down there and get buckets and put this team away. Because, when you get in these playoffs, this is how your legacy is defined. How you perform in the finals. It's the reason why people are starting to look at Jimmy different, because of how he played in the playoffs, how he just won Game 3 versus other superstars where you see a James Harden or a Russell Westbrook who play great in the regular season but haven't got it done in the playoffs. So it does affect how you're perceived. So I know LeBron definitely wants to win this series, and AD too.
But on the flip side, if the Lakers do win and LeBron is the finals MVP, that'll be, his 4th ring, but he'll have a ring with 3 different franchises: Cleveland, Miami Heat, now with the Lakers. He'll have an MVP with 3 different teams: Cleveland, Miami Heat, the Lakers. No one else would have done that. Now, would that validate him as the GOAT?
It would help his case. I mean, I think the LeBron haters, it's a lot of them. They would still say, oh, he still has more losses than wins. But it definitely will help his case. 3 rings, 3 different teams, especially if he wins the Finals MVP. That's 3 different Finals MVPs for 3 different teams. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So,
but he'll be 4-6 in the finals.
Yeah. That's not pretty. But LeBron's argument could be, hey, okay, Jordan is 6 for 6, but he played 13, 14 seasons.
Yeah.
So that means half of his career he was getting bounced in the first and second round.
Yeah, and in defense of LeBron, people talk about that like his record right now is 3-9, 3-6 in the finals. But some of those teams shouldn't even been in the finals. I mean, to get there right now for his 10th time. And again, it's not like he had a whip all the time. You know, the first time he got Cleveland to the finals, that was LeBron James pretty much almost by himself.
And the others.
And the others. Then when they went to Miami, give them credit. They took care of business. They were only together for 4 seasons. They made the finals all 4 seasons with 2 chips.
Yeah.
Then when he went back to Cleveland, they went 4 straight seasons in a row. But they were playing arguably one of the best dynasties of all time. Well, not even arguably, one of the best dynasties of all time in the Golden State Warriors, who went to the finals 5 straight times with 3 rings. And there was no way they were going to beat that team with a healthy Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
When they added Durant, Cleveland, and he was healthy, they didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
So it's not like he got to the playoffs all the time and choked. A lot of those teams shouldn't even have been there. And then some of the teams that got there, they should have won anyway. In his defense.
Yeah. And then that's kind of saying he's 4-6. Or if he wins this year, he'll be 4-6. But that's kind of framing it in a negative way. You could say he won 10 conference championships and 4 championships if he wins this year.
True.
Whereas Jordan won 6 conference championships and 6 championships. So if you look at it like that, LeBron is really, you could argue he's ahead of Jordan in that category.
Yeah, I'm telling you, one thing that's going to happen with LeBron, the way it looks right now, he's going to retire kind of like a Wilt Chamberlain. When Wilt Chamberlain retired, if you went through the record book, Wilt's name was popping up everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Bron, now that he's in his 17th season, I think he might try to go for 20.
Yeah.
Because one of his icons, Kobe, played 20. And I think if he gets to that 20th season, sprinkled all throughout the record books, it's going to be 2 names now. LeBron and Wilt. And, you can make a case for him, but if they lose to Miami, though, in my opinion, the GOAT conversation is over.
Yeah, I do think this is a must-win series for the legacy when your team is just that much better than the other team. And I really do like Miami. They're scrappy, but they just, the talent-wise, the Lakers are the better team on paper. And, when you have another superstar in AD with you, you got to win the series. Yeah.
So, hey, all of our subscribers out there, we call you winners. That's a question we want to hear. Throw it in the comments. Shout back at us. If LeBron loses to the Miami Heat, can he still be considered in the GOAT conversation? If LeBron wins against the Miami Heat, can he now be considered the GOAT based on what we're talking about? So let us hear from you. Throw us something in the comments. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Instagram or wherever we post. We're on all social media, Burrage Sports Show. We love to hear from you. April, super producer, tell us some places where some of the people have been checking us out because we're growing.
So shout out to Singapore.
Nice.
Hey.
Shout out to Ecuador. Shout out to Germany.
Nice.
Shout out to Ireland.
Nice.
Yep.
And shout out to Chicago, Dallas, Columbus, Seattle.
That's nice.
Yep.
See? Burrage
Nice.
Sports Show. We're worldwide, y'all, because
International.
this podcast is all about the love of the game. We just love the game. We don't sit up here and fight and bicker and go crazy all the time because we're fans. We're fans. We love the game, and we're glad that you're tuning in and you love it too. Again, hit us up on all social media, Burrage Sports Show. Click the like button, subscribe, definitely share with a friend. So this has been a good podcast, man. NFL preview. We walk the entire NFL rankings. Again, KC at the top, Jets at the bottom. Our beloved Bears are somewhere kind of near the bottom, but hey, we are 3-1 though. And the NBA finals are going on, so we're gonna keep you updated on that. We're gonna keep you updated with more sports news.
Yep. And unfortunately, both the Sox and the Cubs lost, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm kind of glad the Crosstown Showdown didn't go in the World Series this year. So due to COVID, so maybe next year for both of those teams.
Yeah, just a preview for next year, just getting us ready. Super producer April, got anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, Mike BURR, you got anything else?
That's it.
All right, hit us up. You know how we get down, and we're glad you tuned in. Next week it's going to be even better. Have a good day, everybody. And as you know, Mike BURR, drop the beat.